of silence, followed by the we version of the Serenity Prayer. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things that we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Hey, everybody. I'm Thomas. I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict. I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. I was sober for 4 years, and then I had my first drink at 4 years old. I when I was born, I was kind of restless, irritable, discontent from a very young age, and I remember sitting on my granny's lap, and she was rocking me in a rocking chair and saying, "Darling, go fix me a bourbon drink." And I was like, "Okay, Granny, I'll do that." So I got up, went up to our bar, made her poured some bourbon in a glass, poured some Jack Daniels into that glass, and then brought it back to her and put some Coca-Cola in there. And I brought it to her, and she said, she took a sip of it and said, "Just a little more bourbon, darling." So I brought it back and put it back into the bar area, and then I poured some bourbon into a shot glass, and I looked around, and I'd seen all these grown-ups that were drinking this stuff, and they figured that they were cool, calm, and collected and had their act together. And so I took the drink, and it tasted like shit. It burnt like hell. But it gave me that nice, warm feeling that I was kind of looking for. And I think for the rest of my life, I was always looking for something on the outside that would help what was inside of here. And basically just stumbled around for the next few years, just very sad until I found the alcohol and drug solution about, I guess when I was about 16 or 17 years old. I liked psychedelics, wow, these colors taste like music. I liked, smoking weed. I liked, but alcohol was always there for me, always there because it's all reliable, man. It'll cure what ails you. And then gradually, though, drinking started to increase, drug use started to increase, and then I died. Well, a couple of times. I had to be resuscitated, and the first words that came out of my mouth when I was resuscitated was "fuck." I don't know if any of y'all can relate to that one, but I was like, I can't live, and I can't die. What the fuck am I gonna do? So gradually, my family started looking for a place, and they found a place in Charleston, South Carolina called the Charleston Recovery Center, which is sort of an offshoot of the Owl's Nest Recovery Center, and because our founder, Ronnie B., got sober there and started this house out, and he was strictly into the big book, strictly into the big book. So the first thing I did when I got into treatment was, or recovery, was they gave me a copy of this book right here and told me to read it from a certain page to a certain page. They also told me to turn off my brain because it don't fucking work. I was like, okay, okay. And they also told me I can tell about all the bad things I've done to other people, but I can't talk about the bad things that had happened to me. Needless to say, I was one quiet person for a couple of years. I couldn't say shit, because I was blaming people this, blaming people for that. So anyway, I read the big book. They told me to write down 15 ways of life's unmanageability, and I wrote that down. And then they told me to memorize the 3-part illness from which we all suffer from: the illness of the body, illness of the mind, and illness of the spirit. I'm sure y'all gentlemen know all about that one. And told me to memorize it. And then I sat down and with a bunch of other people, and they took me through step 3, which is where I would turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understood him. Now, I did not believe in God. I was an atheist when I came in, and did not believe in God. But my sponsor, who had, he was not a member of the Charleston Recovery Center, he was a friend of the directors. He had 21 years of sobriety, and for a living he sang in an Irish pub and did not drink or do cocaine. I was like, how does one get this power? How does one do this? And he told me. So he just told me to be willing to believe that there's something bigger than me. So went through steps 1, 2, and 3. And then as soon as I did the 3rd step prayer, which we do it on our knees like it was taught in the original manuscript of the big book, and we turn our will and our life over to something bigger than ourselves, then we launch out into a course of vigorous action. The first step of which is a personal house cleaning, which many of us had never attempted. I don't know about y'all, but back in active addiction when I was running and gunning and stuff like that, I didn't come home at night and say, you know what, let me make a list of people I fucked over. And what was my part in it? Oh, no, I didn't do that. Did y'all do that? Fuck no, hell no. The writers of the big book did it though, and they give us some great direction. If y'all have a book handy, if y'all want to follow along, it'd be great. But if you don't, it's cool. I can read it out loud. Therefore, we start upon a personal inventory. This was step 4. A business which takes no regular inventory usually goes broke. If we alcoholics and addicts don't take regular inventory, we're going to get drunk or high. But that's where the 10th step is. Taking a commercial industry is a fact-finding and a fact-facing process. It is an effort to discover the truth about the stock in trade. One object is to disclose damaged or unsaleable goods, to get rid of them promptly and without regret. If the owner of the business is to be successful, he cannot fool himself about values. So that's basically what recovery is uncovering, discovering, and discarding things. And every house has a junk drawer, right? You know, like in the kitchen or something like that, you open it up, it's got like a spool of thread, it's got like maybe a broken pair of scissors or just a bunch of stuff. At the office where I work at Charleston Recovery Center, I was doing a Searching and Fearless inventory of our junk drawer there too. So I opened up the drawer and I found a packet of ranch. I was like, packet of ranch. That's the Southern condiment, man. That shit goes good on everything. I'll put that to the side and look at it later. Found a pen, one of those fancy pens, the G2 pens, you know, them fucking things that write really well. I was like, this is awesome, man. We're gonna keep a hold of that. And then I found a smoke detector. And those are very helpful, especially in a house with a bunch of people smoke. Very useful. So I set it aside. Then I looked closely at these items, looked at the packet of ranch, and its expiration date was when Jimmy Carter was president. What was I gonna do with this packet of ranch? Hold it onto it and hopefully it gets better one day? No, get rid of it promptly and without regret. I checked the pen. I tried to write on a piece of paper. It wouldn't work. I did the old lighter trick on it. Still wouldn't write. Then I looked at it and the ink had dried up all in it. So what do I do with that pen? Pray and hope it gets better? No, you get rid of it promptly and without regret. The smoke detector, I put a 9-volt battery in there, tested it, no test. What do I do with that? Get rid of it promptly and without regret. These are not evil things. The book says we're making a Searching and Fearless moral inventory of ourselves, not immoral. if that was the case, we'd write, you know, just all crazy shit. But it just wants us to find out what works and what doesn't work. And these things that we're going to find are the defects of character, which are holding us back from life, a successful, happy, sober life. Because I don't know about y'all, man. I didn't have a drinking or drugging problem. Shit was easy, real easy. I was a professional. But staying sober, that was my problem. Happy sobriety was my problem. So I had to find out, make a list of things and make an inventory of myself. The book gives us great directions on what to do. We did exactly the same thing with our lives. We took stock honestly. First, we searched out the flaws in our makeup which caused our failure. Being convinced that self, manifested in various ways, was what had defeated us, we considered its common manifestations. Resentment is the #1 offender. It destroys more alcoholics and addicts than anything else. Now you might be saying to yourself, self? Doesn't alcohol and drugs destroy more alcoholics and addicts than anything else? According to this, resentment destroys alcoholics and addicts because when we're sober and we're full of resentment, pissed off, angry, it blocks us off. And then we can't live unhappy and full of fear and full of harms and all these other and resentments, and invariably we'll go back to drinking or using drugs, invariably. So resentment's the #1 offender. It's not the caboose, it's the train. That's what's killing us, so we got to get rid of that. Where would I leave off at? Being convinced itself, manifested in various ways, was what had defeated us. We considered its common manifestation. Oh wait, I already read that, excuse me. There we go. From it stem all forms of spiritual disease. For we have been not only mentally and physically ill, we have been spiritually sick. When the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. So that's something I never ever once considered, because when I was in active addiction and I was trying to get my life in order, I'd say, well, I'm going to outwork this thing. I worked in a kitchen. I'm going to work, I'm going to clean. I'm going to do all this stuff. I'm physically active. I'm going to work, run, jog, do all that shit. And what happened? I got drunk. I got high. Okay, mentally, I'll outthink the next drink. I'll outthink it. I'm smarter than this. I can outthink it. I'm a smart guy. Think. And what happened? I got drunk and high. Never once did I consider getting well spiritually, which means okay with the world. Didn't never consider that at all. The book goes on, and what does it say? In dealing with resentments, we set them on paper. We listed people, institutions, or principles with whom we were angry. Period. End of a sentence, end of an action. So we're going to make a list of people, places, and institutions which we were angry. All right. And I'll write down, let's see, Dad, yeah. How many people in here are left-handed? Nobody? In my recovery house, there's like 20% of us are left-handed. It's very strange anyway. But then again, it runs in my family. My dad and my brother are too. Dad. And I was praying about what I was going to do the meeting on, and we were driving into Florence, and I saw a place called the Ebenezer Shopping Center. I think it's called the Ebenezer Shopping Center or something like that. And that's my code word for any asshole in recovery who pisses me off in general. So I'm going to write down Ebenezer. The names are changed to protect the innocent. All right. Let's see, who else could I write down? Anybody have a resentment out there they want to put up there? God? Fair enough. One more? Yourself? Myself. All right, that's enough room right there. Of course, when you're making this list, doing a fourth step, it's going to be a little bit longer, but when I first went through the steps, my brain was Swiss cheesed. I mean, I couldn't think really. My sponsor basically told me what to write and what to write, but I'm grateful for that because I couldn't intellectualize the program because we're looking for a spiritual experience, not intellectual interference. We're looking to get closer to something bigger than ourselves, whether we believe it's there or not. So after we've written down the people, places, and things we're angry at, then what does the book tell us to do? We asked ourselves why we were angry. Oh boy, can I do that shit? And by the way, this is the way, the fourth step, this is how I was taught. So if it goes, this is just the way I was taught how to do it. Straight out the book. Dad, why am I angry at Dad? He's controlling, right? Fucker. Always trying to control my life. Drinks. He drinks. Hard on me. Ebenezer. Why am I angry at Ebenezer? Stole my money. Avoided me. Ain't nothing worse than a fucking thief, right? Fucking thieves are the worst sacks of shit in the fucking world. Wait a minute. You're staring at what? Never mind. I'm in the fourth column. I'm not going to talk about that yet. Anyway, why am I angry at God?
He put me through all this bullshit.
Yeah. Doesn't care about me. Doesn't care about me. What else could we say? Maybe doesn't exist. Maybe something like that. Yeah.
Doesn't answer my prayers.
Doesn't answer prayers. There we go. There we go. Prayers are hitting the ceiling. All right. Why are we angry at ourselves? Addiction. What else? Hurt people. I hurt people.
I put myself through this.
Yeah. fuck me. My head is out to get my ass, right? Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I got a problem. Yeah. Very good. All right. So we've written down all that stuff. If you notice, the why we're angry at the person isn't too long. We try to keep that short and into a bullet point statements because it has an example of it in the big book where they talk about Mr. Brown, Mrs. Jones, the wife, the employer, and all that. And if you look at it, there's just like about, I think about 13 words, maybe grand total, and the cause. Nothing long at all. Maybe even less than that. Why? We don't want to live in these resentments. We want to get rid of them. I've seen people write down the second column. It looks like a Russian novel. It's as long as hell. I'm like, no, just keep it short because every statement you make, you're going to be eating a shit sandwich about it later. Right? Just from my personal experience. All right. Then the book tells us to do something else. And it says here, in most cases, it was found that our self-esteem, our pocketbooks, our ambitions, our personal relationships, including sex, were hurt or threatened. So we were sore. We were burned up. On our grudge list, I love that, we set up opposite each name our injuries. Was it our self-esteem, our security, our ambitions, our personal sex relations would have been interfered with? We're usually as definite as the example, and they give that example. But I'm going to skip down to the bottom of the page. We went back through our lives. Nothing counted but thoroughness and honesty. When we were finished, we considered it carefully. The first thing apparent was that this world and its people were often quite wrong. To conclude others were wrong was as far as most of us ever got. The usual outcome was that people continued to wrong us and we stayed sore. Sometimes it was remorse, and then we were sore at ourselves. See, sore at ourselves when we have ourselves as a resentment. All right, but the more we fought and tried to have our own way, the worse matters got. As in war, the victor only seemed to win. Our moments of triumph were short-lived. My dad told me this story. My dad's from LA, Lower Alabama. And, during, it was a very rural farming community, and there wasn't much to do in Luverne, Alabama. So him and a buddy of his were like to get into trouble. And what they used to do is go into this farmer's watermelon patch and steal watermelons. The farmer found out about this and was pissed off. So the next time my dad and his friend went to the watermelon patch, there was a sign up, and it said, "Attention, one of these watermelons is poisoned." And my dad and his friend looked at each other like, oh shit, we'll take a watermelon, might die. They didn't know what to do, but they came up with an idea. The next morning, the farmer came out to his watermelon patch, and written up on the sign was, "Attention." Crossed out was 1. 2 of these watermelons have been poisoned. So what did the farmer have to do? Get rid of his entire watermelon patch because he didn't know which one was poison. My dad actually didn't do that, but they couldn't take that risk, right? So as in war, the victor only seemed to win. This farmer had a resentment against, but people retaliate. That's what people do. And this retaliation is going to get us nowhere. Why does it say that? It is plain that a life which includes deep resentment leads only to futility and unhappiness. To the precise extent that we permit these, do we squander the hours that might have been worthwhile. So it's futile, it's unhappy, and we squander. But with the alcoholic whose hope is the maintenance and growth of a spiritual experience, this business of resentment is infinitely grave. What is grave? Bad. It's infinitely grave, very, very bad. We found that it is fatal. Once again, they're killing us. For when harboring such feelings, we shut ourselves off from the sunlight of the Spirit, which is recovery. The insanity of alcohol returns and we drink again. And with us, to drink is to die. So they're killing us, man. They're killing us. Over and over and over again, they're killing us with resentment. If we were to live, we had to be free of anger. They're saying it again in case we missed it 3 times. They said it before, right? The grouch and the brainstorm were not for us. Now, when this book was written, words had sometimes different meanings. Grouch, everybody knows what grouch is. Somebody who's, angry, like Oscar the Grouch. If y'all ever watched Sesame Street, he lived in a trash can, he was always angry. But brainstorm, nowadays it means coming up with ideas for a business. Hey, let's start a computer business. Oh yeah, and you say, well, maybe we should have charging ports there too. Yeah, that's right. That's a good idea. Brainstorm, when the book was written, meant fit to uncontrollable pangs of anger inside of our heads. Can anybody relate to that? I definitely can. So the grouch and the brainstorm are not for us. They may be the dubious luxury of normal men. Dubious means lacking real merit. Of normal men, normal people can have resentments. But for alcoholics, these things are poison. Once again, they kill us again. Kill us again. Oh boy, what are we going to do? We turn back to the list. For it held the key to the future, this list right here that we've made. We were prepared to look at it from an entirely different angle. We began to see that the world and its people really dominated us. So we may think that we have a upper hand with some of these morally righteous because of what how we think and feel, but the actual case is that Dad, Ebenezer, God, and my ideas about myself are living rent-free inside of my head and directing my actions. Y'all do on Awakening, right? Where you get up in the morning and you ask God to direct your thinking, divorce it from self-pity, dishonest and self-seeking motives. When we're not in recovery, these things they're directing my thinking. They're making me do faulty actions on preconceived notions about things. That's what's controlling me. So in that state, the wrongdoing of others, fancied or real, fancied meaning made up or real, had power to actually kill. How could we escape? We saw these resentments must be mastered, but how? We cannot wish them away any more than alcohol. So we can't wish away resentments. Can't wish them away. Like say, okay, I'm not. You know, I lived in communal living too, at, you know, the house I went through and stuff like that. And there were some people I just did not get along with. But one mornings I would get up and say, you know what? I'm not going to let this guy bother me. I'm bigger than that. He ain't going to bother me. He ain't going to bother me at all. And then the next time I saw him, this asshole right here, fuck yeah. Oh my God, he taking the last slice of pizza on pizza night. I can't wish away resentments. Anyway, this was our course, and that means a journey. We realized that the people who wronged us, right here, were perhaps spiritually sick. Though we did not like their symptoms, these might be the symptoms of their spiritual illness. And the way these disturbed us, which I did not write down because I got lost, but the way they disturb us is social, security, and sex. So Dad's controlling. He drinks, he's hard on me, so definitely my security is threatened. Social, and maybe my sex too. It's not that my dad wants to have sex with me or I want to have sex with my dad. It's just like whenever I would bring home a girl or something like that and he didn't like him, you know, he's messing with me getting some, messing with that. Ebenezer stole my money, avoided me. Definitely my security instinct is threatened there. Social as well. God doesn't care about me. Doesn't answer my prayers. That's sex all the way. No, I'm just kidding. That's security. Just checking, make sure you're all listening. Security, social, yeah. And maybe sex too as well. My family, my mom and my grandmother were devout Roman Catholics. So they believed that, sex was to have more Roman Catholics and stuff like that. So definitely God has something to do with that. Myself, addiction, I hurt people, got to be a problem. Security, maybe social too. Maybe that's neck and neck too. And sex too as well. All right. So these are the way they disturbed our instincts right there. All right.
Thomas,
Yes.
I think we have a young man who's a little bit confused with the third column you're putting down.
With the third column? Okay, yeah. So
I thought the third column was you having to dad controlling. How does it control the sex? Then define how the sex is, the controlling part, or the social part. Why does it affect the social part, and how does it affect your social part?
Yeah.
You pick.
I pick it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I usually pick in the order in which these my instincts are being threatened. Usually.
You have to explain.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have to explain them?
Yeah. I mean, when I have my sponsees write down stuff, I have them explain why their instincts are being threatened in this way. Like for the security instinct, is it their personal security, their financial security, their social instinct, you know, how they look and appear in front of people, the sex instinct, you know, how we, you know, basically,
Why it is affected that way?
yeah.
And like go into like depth about it?
Yeah, you can talk a little bit about it. We usually do that in the fourth and the fifth step, so, yeah. When I work through people through that, yeah.
All right, good.
That's the way, yeah.
Man,
well,
Done
that-
did a lot. I was like, never mind.
Yeah.
Sometimes sponsors do things a little bit different.
I was like, man, all right. I was like, man.
Once again, this is the way I was. Once again, this is the way I was taught. So if y'all were taught a different way, one thing I have learned about recovery: following directions will get you sober. So if you're following the directions of your sponsor, you're going to get sober either way. But this is just how I was taught. All right, where was I? We asked God to help us show them the same tolerance, pity, and patience that we would cheerfully grant a sick friend. When a person offended, we said to ourselves, "This is a sick man. How can I be helpful to him? God save me from being angry. Thy will be done." Said nobody not in recovery. You know, you're driving down the road and somebody cuts you off and decides to give you the salute. You don't think to yourself, "This is a sick man. How can I be helpful to them? God save me from being angry." No, you want to kill that fucker, right? You're angry at him, right? The book, this is a part of the book, it's called the Angry Man's Prayer. There's something on page 552 where they tell you to pray for a person that you resent, asking them to get all these good things and stuff like that. But that's more step 11 stuff. We're on the fourth step right now. The person we're praying for to help is us, because we're the ones in trouble. God save me from being angry. God save me from being pissed off. We avoid retaliation or argument. We wouldn't treat sick people that way. If we do, we destroy our chance of being helpful. We cannot be helpful to all people, but at least God will show us how to take a kindly and tolerant view of each and every one. So you aren't going to be kumbaya with everybody in the world. You're not going to get along with everybody. And you aren't going to be a doormat either. You know? You can't be helpful to all people. Some people you just don't jibe with. Some people it's just the way life is. People have friends and situations like that. Some people are going to do stuff that's not good. But that's all on their part. We can't take it on our part. And the book tells us what to do. Referring to our list again, putting out of our minds the wrongs others had done, we resolutely look for our own mistakes. Where have we been selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened? Though a situation had not been entirely our fault, we tried to disregard the other person. Somebody has tried, crossed out in here, that's good. We disregard the other person involved entirely. Where were we to blame? The inventory was ours, not the other man's. When we saw our faults, we listed them. We placed them before us in black and white. We admitted our wrongs honestly and were willing to set these matters straight. Y'all know how meetings can kind of be redundant and stuff like that. You start hearing the same thing over and over and over again. You know why? Because we're stubborn, hard-headed people. I'm a stubborn, hard-headed person. I need to hear this over and over again. And I think 5 times in that paragraph it told me, take my own inventory, not the other person's. 5 times it says it. I need to hear that, man, because I can invariably get into other people's part. My first sponsor always told me I was going to slide to hell on my butts. You know, I did this, but this person did this to me. But this happened, and I try to justify my thing. But when I do a 4th step, all I got to do is answer these questions. Where was I selfish? Where was I dishonest? Where was I self-seeking? And where was I frightened? All right, let's see. Dad, controlling, drinks, he's hard on me. All right, well, how am I selfish in this?
Probably hard on you because he wants you to do right.
That's it.
You know?
That's it. The people who are harder on you sometimes are the ones that actually care about you, right? I didn't see it that way, though. I did not see it that way at all. He was controlling, but I'll tell you what, every time I was a little low on the funds, and I always came up to my dad and said, "Hey, can I have some money?" and stuff like that. You give it to me and expect to see some sort of return on his investment. Oh, no, I ain't gonna do that. I'm the one that's controlling the situation. Y'all have heard the whole, if you spot it, you got it? That's a lot in the 4th step. If I start seeing things in other people, it's definitely stuff I'm dealing with myself. Let's see. He drinks. Well, yes, my dad does drink. But there's a little bit difference between him and me. He drinks and enjoys it and can put it down anytime. When I drink, I get homeless. That's what happens to me. He doesn't have the 3-part illness. He doesn't. He's non-addict. I hate saying normal people. Nobody in the world is normal. But he doesn't have the 3-part illness like me. He can do that. And I got a lot of fear of how people control me, how I'm perceived. You know, I want to be in charge. And also I had a fear of letting them down. All my other brothers I viewed as were doing well. I have 4 brothers. And they were all doing well, I thought, and I was going to let my dad down. But the fact was, my dad just wanted me to be okay. And that's it. I'll skip down to God because I got a story to tell you all about Ebenezer right now. God doesn't care about me, doesn't answer my prayers. Security, social, sex. I actually had God written down on my first 4th step too. And my sponsor told me, Thomas, how can you be pissed off at something you don't believe in? You got a good point there. I don't know. I never let reality get in the face of a good resentment, right? But let's see, where was I selfish? I think I know better. This deadhead from Charleston, South Carolina, knows better than the world, right? How am I dishonest? You know, I lied to myself all the time about, you know, God's not in control, and this is all fairy tale and stuff like that. Meanwhile, the thing is, I wanted to be in control. The 3rd step says we got to quit playing God. I was an atheist that was playing God, and I didn't even realize that through manipulation and all these other things. I got a fear of things controlling me. I hate being controlled. Once again, same thing with that. There's this control fear. Alcoholics and addicts don't feel controlled. They want to be in control. I wanted to be in control. And let's see, myself, addiction. I hurt people. I got a problem. All right. So what's my part in myself? It's an interesting one always. But I'm selfish because I just wanted to feel good. That's it. My whole life, I just wanted to feel good. You know, and recovery to a certain extent is not feeling good. You know, it sucks. Early recovery does stink a little bit, but addiction. What else in myself? I hurt people. I got a problem. Well, sometimes, you know, I'm harder on myself. Sometimes, but I gotta just be easier on myself. I was a sick person, right? Normal people don't do, non-sick people don't do stuff like this. Hurt people do hurt things. We hurt people. That's what happens. And if we're not cognizant of that fact, we just continue doing it over and over and over and over again. I got a problem. I do have a problem. Alcoholism, addiction, and other issues, but I found that taking direction and getting this out of it helps. The problem gets us into the solution. So that's good. Yeah. That's what we need. And Ebenezer. I'll tell you about this one. This is Ebenezer. Okay, back before I came into treatment, I was hanging out with this guy who lived in my apartment. His name was, Ebenezer. And me and him were drinking us some liquor, and we were smoking some of that crack cocaine, man. And we were having a good old time partying, and once I passed out, or blacked out, or whatever. And I came to the next morning, and Ebenezer was gone. And I don't know about y'all, but after a night of drinking liquor and smoking crack cocaine, what do I want to do? Do some more of it. Exactly. And we're the friends here. So I went and looked for my stash where I kept my money. And it was in a book. And it was a $20 bill and a $2 bill. Why a $2 bill? I don't know. It's just the way I roll. And I looked in there in the book. It was gone. This fucker, Ebenezer, fucking took it. Hell yeah. You could have put me in a court of law and I would testify. And it had to have been to him. And then I was walking around my apartment complex and I saw Ebenezer and he kind of skated out of the way a little bit like that. I was like, see this fucker here? He did this shit to me? Hell yeah. One thing led to another. And my monkey ass got taken into treatment, a recovery house. And they pushed me through a 4th step really quick. And I wrote down this guy's about Ebenezer. All right, stole my money, avoided me, blah, blah, blah. I'm dishonest. I steal from people constantly. Not just money, but time and attention and all that other stuff. I do bad things and I hang out with shady people, but I am a shady person myself, right? I got a fear of being taken advantage of, self-seeking. I think I'm better than him, blah, 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 and all this stuff. And it was great. Found my part in it. I was like, wow, that was really cool. Weekend came and it was visitation time, and my dad came by with my little brother. And they were cleaning out my shithole apartment, which looked like a record store and a liquor store had exploded in it. And they were cleaning it all out. And Dad said, "God damn, boy, what were you doing with 20 empty cases of Busch beer?" I was like, "I don't know, Dad," whatever. And he said, "Well, we found something." And what did he hand me? $20 bill and a $2 bill. My resentment was a lie. A lie. I made this shit up. It didn't happen at all. Apparently, I'd gotten so drunk that I hid the money from myself. Anybody ever done that? Or changed the password on your phone or something like that? I said, no, nobody's going to find this out, and then we don't remember it and stuff like that. So it got me to thinking, if that didn't happen, how many other things have happened in my life that didn't really happen? I just made this shit up. It was a complete, total, fancied resentment. Didn't happen at all. And I think we can supply the honesty with the fourth step. We can be honest, just as honest as possible. I think God supplies the truth, and that's God coming in there and just giving me a big smack upside the head. Saying, that's how it works sometimes. It doesn't come with this angel touching your forehead. It just comes sometimes with you looking like a schmuck, And that being said, I mean, I did the best fourth step that I could do. And then I did a fifth step, and then I did 6 and 7, did the hour of God, then started doing 8 and 9, and I started making resentments. And 2 things happened. One, I woke up one morning, I didn't want to get drunk or high. My thing happened at step 9. Some people's happens earlier, some people's later. And the second thing that happened, I became aware that there was something bigger than myself that was looking out for me. In charge, God. And if I do keep doing this thing, this recovery thing, I don't ever have to drink or get high again. That was huge, because you're talking to a homeless drunk guy who couldn't hold down a job, who could barely buy a pack of cigarettes on loan, who never had nothing. And all of a sudden, I just started feeling better. I felt like something good was going to happen. And then 10, 11, and 12, I deepened and broadened my relationship with something bigger than me. And I just continue to do these steps, these things. I mean, if you're having difficulty with it, it does seem like BS when you first read it. I was like, God's going to pay my cable bill? God's going to do this? Are you kidding me? Come on. Sounds like a Hallmark card gone on steroids, right? It ain't going to happen. I did the work, and it works. I've got a life now which is a lot easier if I start looking at myself as the problem. A lot easier. It doesn't seem that way. I know, I get it. It doesn't seem that way. But when I start looking at myself as the problem, get in touch with something bigger than me, it removes that problem, pushes me onward. That being said, guys, I don't think I have much more to say. If anybody has any questions, or concerns, I don't even know what time it is right now, but please feel free to do that. I'm Thomas. I'm an alcoholic and drug addict. Thanks for letting me get up here.